Hi, I'm Jeremy Eskenazi, and I'm with Riviera Advisors. I've had about 30 years of talent acquisition, staffing, and recruiting inside of corporations all over the U.S., and I'm really happy to share today a story about the candidate experience and my personal experiences in learning what not to do and what to do. So in my first couple of years in talent acquisition, I worked inside of an HR office where I recruited candidates for our company. And it was a very popular place, and a lot of people really wanted jobs in this organization. We had a gentleman who applied for a job, and he really wanted the job. But in those days, you were sort of taught that, the candidate is never really to be told what the results of their interviews are. And don't ever share anything about why the candidate didn't get a job. So I was doing that. I was told that, candidates just kind of go away. So this guy would call and call and call. He interviewed for several times, and he never got a call back from me. He would call me. Our receptionist would say this person was on the phone. I would just sort of ignore him, thinking that, he would just go away. Well, unfortunately, that was not the case. 3 years later, I was in a totally different company, and I was walking around my local grocery store. And inside the grocery store, I heard my name. Somebody was calling my name, Jeremy, Jeremy, over by the produce department. I looked over, and there was a very familiar looking guy who was there with his family, 2 young kids, in amongst a million different produce items in the store. He yelled over to me and he said, "Hey, aren't you Jeremy? Aren't you the guy that I interviewed with at this company 3 years ago?" And I was very embarrassed. I didn't know what to say. And in front of all of my local neighbors and things like that, he started calling me names across the produce aisle, telling me what a jerk I was, and even worse. And it was the most embarrassing time of my entire career. But it was a great learning experience, because it was true that in those days, HR, which we called personnel at that time, basically served as sort of a gatekeeper of the organization. And that was the totally wrong thing to do. The guy just needed to be told he didn't get the job. And it was cowardly and stupid of me to do that. But I learned a really solid lesson, that candidates do not go away. They do live in your neighborhood, and they do represent your ability to engage your personal as well as your employer's brand. So fast forward several years later, I'm in another job. I'm working inside of a company, and I've learned about the candidate experience from this issue. And so we invited a candidate to come in. He interviewed like 13 times, back and forth, flying around back and forth, and in the end, he didn't get the job. But I told him exactly why he didn't get the job, what he could have done differently, etc., and he appreciated that. And then 3 years later, I had another job in the same company, similar. I called this guy again. He interviewed again. He went through 15 interviews again and didn't get the job again. But in this case, I told him why. He went away, but the difference is now as a consultant, years later, I got a call from him. He found me on LinkedIn and he said, "You know what? I interviewed with you several times when you were at this other company. And I really appreciated the way that you interacted with me as a candidate. And although I didn't get hired, I really liked the way you operated. And because of that, I would like to hire you to come back to my company now and do an assessment of our candidate experience and maybe teach us how to be more effective." So that's a little bit about my learning. The candidates don't go away. They're in your life no matter where you go throughout your whole career, and how you treat candidates is really, really important. So that's my HR story.